The note was taped to his dressing room mirror. Jay Leno saw it the moment he walked through the door. A single sheet of paper, yellowed with age, folded once down the middle. The handwriting on the outside was familiar. Too familiar. The kind of familiar that makes your heart stop and your hands go cold. It said, "For Jay. Open before tonight's show." Jay stood in the doorway, unable to move. His assistant was saying something behind him. The producers were calling for him on the intercom. The show started in 20 minutes. None of it mattered, because he knew that handwriting. He had seen it on birthday cards and grocery lists and notes left on the kitchen counter. He had seen it on checks and permission slips and the inscription inside his favorite book. He had seen it every day for the first 18 years of his life. It was his mother's handwriting. Catherine Leno had been dead for 19 years. She had passed away in 1993, just 1 year after Jay took over The Tonight Show. Pancreatic cancer. Quick and merciless. She was diagnosed in June and gone by September. Jay had held her hand in the hospice, watched her eyes close for the last time, and felt something inside him break that had never fully healed. Now her handwriting was taped to his mirror, as if she had walked into his dressing room that very afternoon and left him a message. Jay's hands trembled as he reached for the note. The paper was old. He could feel it. The texture was different from modern paper, rougher, more substantial. The fold was crisp but worn, as if it had been opened and closed many times over the years. He turned it over. On the back, in the same handwriting, was a date, March 15th, 1974. Jay Leno stopped speaking. The studio went completely silent. That date meant something. Jay's mind raced backward through the decades, searching for the memory attached to those numbers. March 15th, 1974. He would have been 23 years old, still living at home, still struggling, still years away from any kind of success. What had happened on March 15th, 1974? And then he remembered. To understand the note, we need to go back. Back to a small house in Andover, Massachusetts. Back to a young man sitting at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, his head in his hands, convinced that his dreams were over. Jay Leno had just been fired, not from a television show. In 1974, television was still a distant fantasy. He had been fired from his job at a comedy club in Boston. The manager had called him into the office, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "You are not funny. You will never be funny. Find another career." Jay had driven home in silence. He had walked through the front door. He had sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the wall, trying to figure out what to do with the rest of his life. His mother found him there at 2 in the morning. Catherine Leno was not a woman who gave speeches. She was practical, quiet, the kind of person who showed love through actions rather than words. She made lunches and ironed shirts and kept the house running while her husband worked and her son chased impossible dreams. But that night, she sat down across from Jay and did something unusual. She talked. She told him about her own dreams, about wanting to be a writer when she was young, about the stories she had scribbled in notebooks and the rejection letters she had collected like wounds, about the day she decided to give up, to get married, to have children, to put her dreams in a drawer and never take them out. Jay had never heard any of this before. His mother had always been just his mother, the woman who made dinner, the woman who drove him to school, the woman who existed in the background of his life, constant and reliable and utterly mysterious. But that night, she became someone else. She became Catherine, the girl who had wanted to write novels, the young woman who had submitted stories to magazines and received nothing but rejection, the dreamer who had stopped dreaming because the world told her to. "I gave up," she told Jay. "I told myself it was practical. I told myself it was responsible. I told myself that dreams were for children and reality was for adults." She looked at him with eyes that held decades of regret. "I was wrong," she said. "I should have kept going. I should have believed in myself. I should have fought harder. And now it is too late. I am 53 years old, and I will never know what I could have been." She reached across the table and took his hands. "Do not make my mistake," she said. "Do not give up. Do not let one manager at one club convince you that your dreams are impossible. You are talented. You are funny. You're going to make it." Jay looked at her. How do you know? He asked. Catherine smiled. Because I am your mother, she said. And mothers know. She stood up from the table. She kissed the top of his head. And then she said something that Jay would carry with him for the rest of his life. Promise me, she said. Promise me that you will not give up. Promise me that you will keep going no matter how hard it gets. Promise me that someday, when you are famous, you will remember this night. You will remember that your mother believed in you when no one else did. Jay promised. Catherine nodded. She turned to walk back to her bedroom. But at the doorway, she paused. I'm going to write you a letter, she said. A real letter. Something you can keep. Something you can read when things get hard. I will leave it somewhere safe. Someday, when you need it most, you will find it. Jay nodded. He never saw the letter. He never knew where she had hidden it. And after Catherine died in 1993, he assumed it had been lost forever. Another piece of his mother, gone like everything else. But here it was, 40 years later, taped to his dressing room mirror. Waiting. Backstage, Jay made a decision that went against everything producers had warned him about. Jay unfolded the note. The paper crinkled in his hands, fragile with age. The handwriting was unmistakably his mother's. Small and precise, slightly slanted to the right, the way she had written everything from grocery lists to Christmas cards. The letter said, My dearest Jay, if you're reading this, it means two things. First, you kept your promise. You did not give up. You became everything I always knew you could be. Second, it means I'm probably gone. I am writing this in March of 1974, and I have no way of knowing how much time I have left. But I want you to know some things, in case I never get the chance to say them. I have watched you fail. I have watched you get rejected and disappointed and knocked down more times than any mother should have to witness. And every single time, I have watched you get back up. That is not something I taught you. That is something you taught me. When I was young, I gave up on my dreams. I told you about this tonight at the kitchen table. What I did not tell you was how much I regretted it. Every single day, for 30 years, I have wondered what my life would have been like if I had kept going. If I had believed in myself the way I believe in you. You are my second chance, Jay. You are living the dream I was too afraid to chase. And every time you walk onto a stage, every time you make someone laugh, every time you refuse to give up, you are proving that I was wrong to quit. You are proving that dreams are worth fighting for. I know you will face more rejection. I know there will be nights when you want to give up, when you sit at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning and wonder if it is all worth it. When those nights come, I want you to remember something. I believe in you, not because I am your mother, not because I have to, but because I have seen who you are. I have seen your heart and your determination and your refusal to accept defeat. I have seen the fire in your eyes when you talk about comedy. That fire does not lie. That fire is going to carry you somewhere extraordinary. I do not know when you will find this letter. I'm going to hide it somewhere clever, somewhere it will wait until you need it most. Maybe you will find it when you are 30. Maybe when you are 50. Maybe not until I am long gone. But whenever you find it, I want you to know this. I am proud of you, not for what you have accomplished, not for the fame or the success or whatever you have achieved by the time you read these words. I am proud of you for not giving up. I am proud of you for keeping your promise. I am proud of you for being the person I always knew you could be. You are my greatest achievement, Jay, not because of anything you have done, but because of who you are, because you're kind and funny and brave and stubborn, because you got all of my best qualities and none of my fear. I love you. I have loved you since the moment you were born. I will love you long after I am gone. And wherever I am, whatever happens, I will be watching you. I will be laughing at your jokes. I will be cheering you on. Keep going, my darling boy. Keep going until the very end. Your mother, Catherine. But what happened next was something no one in the studio and no one watching at home ever anticipated. Jay read the letter 3 times. He stood in his dressing room, tears streaming down his face, holding a piece of paper that his mother had written 40 years ago. A letter she had hidden somewhere in their house, waiting for him to find it. A letter that had somehow survived her death, his father's death, the sale of the family home, and 2 decades of time. How had it gotten here? Who had found it? Who had taped it to his mirror? Jay walked out of his dressing room. He found his assistant in the hallway. "Who put that note on my mirror?" he asked. His assistant looked confused. "What note?" she asked. Jay pulled her into the dressing room. He pointed at the mirror. The mirror was empty. The note was still in his hand, but the tape that had held it to the glass was gone. There was no residue, no mark, no evidence that anything had ever been attached to that mirror. Jay's blood went cold. He looked at the note in his hand. It was real. He could feel the paper. He could see the handwriting. He could smell the faint scent of his mother's perfume, the same perfume she had worn every day of her life. But there was no tape. There was no way the note could have been attached to the mirror. Unless. Jay shook his head. He did not believe in ghosts. He did not believe in the supernatural. He was a practical man, a logical man, the kind of person who needed evidence and explanation. But his mother had promised him a letter. 40 years ago, she had promised to write it and hide it somewhere safe, somewhere he would find it when he needed it most. And tonight, 19 years after her death, the letter had appeared. Jay did not know how. He did not know why tonight. He did not know anything except that he was holding his mother's words in his hands, and the show started in 15 minutes. He made a decision. He walked onto the stage, carrying the letter. The audience applauded as they always did. The band played as they always did. The cameras rolled as they always did. But Jay did not go to his desk. He did not start the monologue. He stood in the center of the stage, holding a piece of yellowed paper, and he spoke. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Something that just happened. Something I cannot explain. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead." For the next 10 minutes, Jay told the audience about his mother, about the night at the kitchen table in 1974, about the promise he made, about the letter she had promised to write, about finding it taped to his mirror 40 years later, 19 years after her death. He read the letter out loud. His voice broke on almost every line. He had to stop several times to compose himself. The audience sat in absolute silence, 300 people witnessing something they had never expected to see. The host of The Tonight Show, crying on national television, reading a letter from his dead mother. When he finished reading, Jay looked at the camera. "I do not know how this letter got here," he said. "I do not know who found it or where it has been for 40 years. I do not know if I believe in miracles or ghosts or messages from beyond. But I know one thing." He held up the letter. "My mother believed in me," he said, "when I was nobody, when I had nothing, when the whole world was telling me to give up. She believed, and she was right." He folded the letter carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket. "I kept my promise, Mom," he said. "I did not give up, and wherever you are, I hope you are watching. I hope you're laughing at my jokes. I hope you are proud." The audience rose to their feet, not applauding, not cheering, just standing, in recognition of a moment that transcended entertainment. A moment between a son and his mother, separated by death but connected by love. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. After the show, Jay launched an investigation. He hired a private detective to trace the letter's journey. He contacted everyone who had access to his dressing room. He reached out to the family that had bought his childhood home in Andover. The answers came slowly, piece by piece. The letter had been hidden inside an old book, a copy of Mark Twain's autobiography that Catherine had kept on her bedside table. When she died, the book was packed away with her other belongings. When Jay's father died 5 years later, everything was put in storage. When the storage unit was sold at auction 10 years after that, the book ended up in a used bookstore in Connecticut. A woman named Helen Morrison had bought it. Helen was 82 years old. She was a retired schoolteacher who collected old books. When she opened the Twain autobiography, she found the letter pressed between the pages. She read it. She cried. And she decided to find Jay Leno. It took her 3 years. She wrote to NBC. She called the studio. She showed up at tapings. No one would listen to her. She was just an old woman with a letter, easy to dismiss, easy to ignore. But Helen Morrison did not give up. She found out which security guard worked the back entrance on Tuesday nights. She found out that he had a daughter who was sick, a daughter who needed surgery the family could not afford. She paid for the surgery, not as a bribe, just because it was the right thing to do. The security guard asked how he could repay her. Helen gave him the letter. She asked him to tape it to Jay Leno's mirror on a night when the show was important. A night when Jay might need to hear his mother's words. A night when the message would matter. The security guard chose that night because it was March 15th. The 40th anniversary of the night Catherine wrote the letter. He taped it to the mirror at exactly 2 in the morning, the same time Catherine had found Jay at the kitchen table 4 decades earlier. Then he left. He never told anyone what he had done. He never asked for recognition or reward. He simply kept a promise to an old woman who had shown kindness to his family. Jay found Helen Morrison 3 months after the night he read the letter. She was living in a nursing home in Hartford, her health failing, her memory beginning to fade. But when Jay walked into her room, she recognized him immediately. "You found it," she said. "The letter. You finally found it." Jay sat beside her bed. "You kept it safe," he said. "For years. You could have thrown it away. You could have sold it. But you found me." Helen shook her head. "Your mother found you," she said. "I just helped." She told Jay about finding the letter in the book, about reading it and weeping, about knowing that it needed to reach him, no matter how long it took. "A mother's love does not expire," she said. "It does not get lost. It finds a way. Always." Jay held her hand. "What can I do for you?" he asked. "How can I thank you?" Helen thought for a moment. "Tell people about her," she said. "Tell people about Catherine. Not about the letter. Not about me. Tell people about a mother who believed in her son when no one else did. Tell people that love is stronger than time." Jay nodded. "I will," he said. "I promise." Helen Morrison died 3 weeks later. Jay attended her funeral. He gave the eulogy. He told the story of the letter and the book and the 3 years she had spent trying to reach him. At the end, he read the last paragraph of his mother's letter. "Keep going, my darling boy. Keep going until the very end." He looked at the small crowd gathered in the chapel. "My mother wrote those words," he said. "Helen Morrison delivered them. And now I am passing them to you. Keep going. Whatever you are facing, whatever you are fighting, keep going." He paused. Because somewhere, someone believes in you. Even if you do not know it. Even if they are gone. Someone is watching. Someone is cheering. Someone is waiting for you to become everything they always knew you could be. The letter is now in a frame on Jay Leno's desk. Next to it is a photograph of Catherine. Next to that is a photograph of Helen Morrison. 2 women who never met, connected by a single piece of paper and a love that refused to die. Every morning, Jay reads the letter. Every night before every show, he touches the frame and whispers, "I am still going, Mom. I am still keeping my promise." And somewhere, in a place beyond time and death and understanding, Catherine Leno is watching. She is laughing at his jokes. She is proud of who he has become. And she is waiting patiently for the day when they will finally sit at the kitchen table again. Until then, the letter remains. A mother's love, written in ink, surviving across 4 decades. A promise kept. A dream fulfilled. A story that will never end.